Deputies say they got a call just after 5 a.m. that a woman was stuck in high water and clinging to branches to stay afloat. They say she was terrified then, but now grateful to be okay. A rainy drive through Leiper's Fort Tuesday morning as Williamson County Sheriff's deputies rushed to a water rescue. Deputies say a woman was driving to work when her car got swept up in high water. Her daughter, Daniela Jarpa, tells me her mom drives over the creek every day. It's usually just a trickle, but this morning, heavy rain turned it into a river.
It was very dark. She went around 5 a.m., so she could barely see.
Before she knew it, her car started floating.
So she tried to stop the car, but then the river had already taken the car with it and started turning it.
Daniela says her mom climbed out of the window and clung to a tree branch to stay afloat. She called 911 for help as the water continued to rise and pull.
And it's hard for me to hear that she was all alone holding onto a branch with the water all the way over here.
Body camera video shows rescue crews barreling through the dark brush as the woman screams for help.
When she finally saw the lights, she was screaming and she was like, I'm here, but they couldn't rescue her yet.
After a few minutes, the crew finally finds her.
We got her!
Subject's out of the water.
We got her!
They help the woman up and walk her to an ambulance.
Yep, we're good. We're coming.
Daniela says her mom is shaken up and has some bruising, but is otherwise doing well.
My mom just talks about how grateful she is for everybody that helped her, the fire department, the police.
Her family says they're grateful to have her home safe. Daniela says they're still working on recovering the car. They found it more than a mile away from where her mother was rescued.
An unbelievably flawed exit.
My first time going to Afghanistan was in 2002.
That's how vets like Charlie Jordan
My last time was in 2015.
describe our pullout from America's longest war.
I was at one part very angry. I was sad.
What does all of this beauty have to do with any of this ugliness, you ask?
Zinnias are my favorite.
It's how this retired Woodlawn vet copes, where he buries the scars from 28 years of service.
I've known nothing but a green ID card my entire life.
Now trading that green ID card for a green thumb.
Good boy, wait.
With service dog Dagger right by his side.
I grow 54 varieties as of this year.
Its official name? Horticulture therapy.
I do suffer from PTSD. I don't say suffer from it, but I do have it, and I work through it, and the way I work through it is through my gardens. And every time that I could come out to my flowers, put my hands in the soil, it just made everything so much better for me.
You've obviously been grappling with this.
I have. I've sat down with my therapist. I've sat down with my friends and family and my fellow veterans.
If you were face to face with the administration right now, what would you say?
I would obviously keep my comments to a very good level, and I would say that I think maybe we should look at a little bit better planning.
His last mission there was as an Army aviator.
I spent many years over there for my first engagement with a small child in Bagram Air Base when I traded him some MRE crackers for a headscarf.
We talked about how that child would be 30 now, and he wonders where he is, how he'll end up.
If you're a veteran out there and this is bothering you, I want to reach out to you and say, hey, find some help.
Do you talk to your flowers?
Yes. I ask them, please just grow as hardy and as fast as you can and as big as you can. They don't give up, and that's what I love too. They don't give up.
Just like veteran Charlie Jordan.
They do what they need to do to survive, and I feel that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm doing my best to get through this life and this world, and these flowers are really helping me do that.
Jordan says he agrees it was time to come home, just not the way that we did it that cost 13 service members their lives.
Right, this is a really, really important point right now, is that there are a lot of people in the hospital across the state of Tennessee and here in Nashville suffering from COVID-19, and that includes children, not just adults. In fact, there are over 70 children hospitalized throughout the state suffering from COVID-19. We learned that ICU bed capacity is continuing to shrink. In Tennessee, there were, as of yesterday, fewer than 100 ICU beds available across the state, and we're feeling that here at Vanderbilt as well. Not only are we hospitalizing a lot of people suffering from COVID-19, but we are also having to deal with the fact that it's hard to find staffing for doing all the work that we need to do, not just at our hospital, but across the state, as we continue to be seeing more and more patients coming in every day.
When we talk about controlling COVID-19, right, you have to think about prevention. And so when it comes to prevention, especially here in Middle Tennessee, what kind of things might you recommend, and maybe something you'll dive into more later tonight, when it comes to just preventing COVID if, for example, you're not getting the vaccine?
Well, certainly we absolutely hope that everyone who is eligible and has access to the vaccines gets vaccinated. What is becoming abundantly clear is that the vaccines are keeping people out of the hospital and they're keeping people from dying of COVID-19. And the vast majority of people in the hospital are not vaccinated. And unfortunately, because we're not yet vaccinating children under 12, we're starting to see more children under 12 in the hospital with COVID-19. So we need to be able to use some of the fundamentals that we were using to block the transmission of SARS-CoV-2 before vaccines were available and even after. And that includes watching our distance between ourselves and others. This virus spreads from one person's breath into another person's respiratory tract. And the risk of that is higher the closer we are to each other. So keeping distance is important, avoiding highly crowded indoor areas. But if we're indoors with people who we don't live with, we should be wearing a mask, because it's very clear after all this time that masks reduce the risk that a transmission event will occur. And of course, paying attention to hand hygiene, taking care of general health, getting flu shots, all of that can help.
All things that are important, especially as we work our way into flu season this year.